Lots to talk about today, boys. Lots to talk about today on the show. And I want to start off with the breaking news. The new Man United era officially begins today as Sir Jim Ratcliffe has been, I love the fact they're using the word ratified now as the new 25% owner of Man United. That will increase to 29% once his personal investment has come in, making him the biggest single shareholder at the club. Already employed a new CEO. They think the footballing and sporting director are going to come in quickly. From a rival's perspective, this kind of seismic change at the club, talk about redeveloping the stadium to a 95,000 seat or building a new one. What kind of impact do you see this having at Man United and the Premier League at large?
I think it's a good one for United. I think, there's a lot of United fans that maybe didn't want this deal because obviously the Glazers are still technically there. And, I've heard a lot of United fans say any owner that comes in with the Glazers still there are just as bad as the owners. That's nonsense. Yeah, that's absolute nonsense. I understand that in an ideal world, the Glazers wouldn't be anywhere near that football club. But to suggest that just because someone's come in and the Glazers are still there, that this guy is automatically as bad as the Glazers, I just think it's completely ridiculous. I've said for some time that I think this will be a positive move for Man United, and the United fans should get behind, Jim Ratcliffe and the guys that he's employing. For me, already, employing a CEO like Omar as quickly as he did shows intent, shows that these guys are not going to be messing around. Obviously, you've just spoke about the stadium. Obviously, there's a big decision that needs to be made on that, whether it gets demolished, whether it gets refurbished. And I know United fans, passionate about that. And, there's a lot of debate. And that could be one of his trickiest actual tests to sort of navigate because he's going to split opinion on that. But listen, I think it's a positive move for United. I think United fans should be excited about it. Now, what I would say is I think it's going to still take time. Yeah, I don't think this is an overnight thing. And I think most United fans and you probably yourself, and football fans understand that there will be a lot of United fans that don't accept that it's going to take time. But ultimately, you've got to accept that Man United's been running to the ground over the last 10 years. Yeah, their squad is mediocre. Spent £1 billion in the last 10 years. Probably needs more than £1 billion spent on it just to get them anywhere near City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. You still got big question marks over the manager. Can you shift some of these players, like Rashford, Maguire on big cash? How easy is it going to be to get rid of them? So he's walking into a very difficult job. But at the end of the day, he's backed himself and he's obviously putting people in charge. So I think United fans should be optimistic, but just obviously with that understanding that this is probably going to take a little bit of time.
I mean, listen, I have absolutely no idea what Man United's future is going to be like in the next couple of years, but actions speak louder than words. I think it's very, very easy to come into a football club that is on its knees and say, this is what needs to be sorted out. I think everybody knows that. So until they start doing it, you've got to give them a chance. You can't put him in the same bracket as some of the Glazers because obviously he hasn't been at the club being able to look and do what he can do. And I think the movement and the actions are very positive about what they're saying. I think they need to actually get some footballing men in there as opposed to just dumping all the responsibility on one man, whether it be a manager like Ten Hag or whether it be just one individual. I think there's a lot of people that need to come together at Man United and actually look at where they're moving together as a team. And behind the scenes, things have been rough at Manchester United, and there's a lot of footballing men that have been there that are well respected in the game that said there was a lot of problems, and they were the ones that were called toxic and told to get out, i.e. Cristiano Ronaldo, Jose Mourinho, Ralph Rangnick. See you later. You know what you're talking about. We do. Poor, really, really poor. And I'm not saying they should have kept all those men, but what I'm saying is they tried to tell the fans what the problems were. And I think some of the fans were kind of sort of not wanting to hear it, sticking their fingers in their ears and saying, no, it's all good. It's the manager, it's the problem. And it's Ronaldo, he's an arsehole, he needs to go. He's out of order what he said. Listen, I think everything what they said was right at Man United. There's a lot of home truths, I think, that Mourinho, Rangnick and Ronaldo said. And I think now it's starting to see that you do actually need to look at where you're going behind the scenes as a board and where you're going as an ownership, and somebody needs to take the reins, and it needs to be somebody that you believe has got the absolute club at its heart and the best interest of the club. And I think if Jim Ratcliffe and some of the other guys they bring in can do that, then there'll be some faith at Man United that the fan base might actually get together and go, yeah, we're actually on our side here. And that's what all the fans need right now is a lift.
Yeah, I need to call someone out in the chat. Z Gold's just put the squad is not mediocre. Now, I don't know if Z Gold's a United fan or what, because obviously it's not clear, but Your squad is mediocre. If you are a United fan, the United squad is mediocre, and I can prove it's mediocre because I can ask myself the question, how many Manchester United players would I take at City? And you know the only player that I'd take at City? Kobe Minu. And he'd be a backup to Rodri. And I asked Dan the same question. Dan, how many players would you take from Manchester United at Arsenal? Seriously.
Yeah,
you might take a few more than me, but you might take, you're probably going to take 2, 3 max. Maybe you'll take Luke Shaw, I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Luke Shaw. If I'm honest with you, bro, it's a great question. I think a lot of the fan base like to try to compare players all the time, and Rashford's better than Martinelli. Okay, you keep Rashford then, and I'll keep Martinelli. Please keep Rashford. I don't want him on my club. Like, honestly, I don't really get. I think they try to hype them up. They want them to be better than they are. Arsenal do it as well. Saka's world class. Rice is world class. They're not. They might be one day. We all do it as a fan base. But sometimes I think with Man United fans, they try to so wish and hope and believe that these players are going to be absolutely top quality. But actually, sometimes they're not going to be. And I don't see that any of the players right now, there's any kind of understanding their future. Because when you buy Ericsson and you buy Casemiro and you buy Varane, that's not a future. That's to try and win now. So it's been a little bit all over the place at Man United. They need to have a direction and an understanding of where they're going. And I think some of the playing staff definitely need to be shipped out, and they need to get the right understanding of where they're going. Now, if I was to come in at Man United, I would not give Ten Hag another penny because he's proven to me that he cannot get the players into the club, and he spent a hell of a lot of money on absolute trash. The Jadon Sanchos of this world were actually before him, but he's added to that Anthony. He's added to that some of the players you look at now and go, really? Did we actually need him? The goalkeeper, for example, everybody from Ajax, go a different route. Go a different route for me. Don't just get a manager in and say, try and get the players in that you used to coach at your old club, please, and bring them in. That ain't going to work. So that's where I'm at. And it's a good question, LB. I don't think I'd take many. I don't think I would. How many Man United players would get into the first team at Arsenal and Manchester City? I don't think there's many, Terry. I mean, I ask you, you're a Man United fan. There's not many.
I understand that because your teams are playing really well. Give this Man United squad, plus some new additions that will come, 2 years of being run well, and there'll be a difference of opinion, even on some of the individuals that are at this club, in my view. Because every 2 or 3 years when we're going through a bad time, our squad's looked at and it is viewed as mediocre, and some of the players are. But the players, everybody right now go, oh, we'll take him, are typically the new players because they haven't been tarnished yet by the toxicity at the club. So Manu, a lot of, I think, for instance, when it comes to Arsenal, you could do with a young striker like Rasmus Højlund, who's going to be a bagsman as an example. So, I look at Delo at right back. I think he's had a phenomenal season. But these players at Man United need stability. There is some real talent there. Lisandro Martinez is quality. I know he's had another knee injury, which is just so unfortunate for him. But there's quality within him. I think there's a player in Garnacho as an example. I don't necessarily agree as well that buying Casemiro's and Ericsson's is a bad thing. Sometimes you need to add that experience. You look at Chelsea right now, what they would give to have 2 or 3 players, 28, 29, 30 years of age, put in this team for the next few years.
No, but I didn't say it was a bad thing, Terry. I just didn't see the future of it. So, like, for example, you knew that Casemiro and Ericsson are going to have a couple of years and they're going to have to be shipped out and then you have to replace them.
No, I understand.
So there was the kind of future with that. Do you know what I'm saying?
I understand that, but sometimes not every signing has to be made with the future in mind. Sometimes you do, because it depends who's available at that moment. Yes, you would love to buy a young Casemiro that you believe is going to get to that level. But if that player isn't available in the market, you bring in a Casemiro for 2 to 3 years while you're looking to fill that void, as an example. So I don't necessarily think everything's been bad at all times, but how we're run, I agree with you 100%. No more backing managers directly with their vision. You have a club vision. You, as a club, you have a style of player you need to play your style of football, and you get the manager in to coach that style. And then you pick a manager that you believe can get the best out of what you're building as a football club. So don't give Ten Hag the power over the next £300 million spent. You make those decisions as a club, and if the manager is struggling to coach them, you sack him and you bring somebody else in that can. That's been our biggest problem in the last 10 years. So for me, I agree with what you said at the beginning, LB. There's a lot of nonsense I've heard from Man United fans who have stated that this part ownership deal is just, it makes a Jim another Glazer. Now that's just ignoring all the facts, even the official documents that have come through. And I know that it's reported that Qatar are going to challenge this, maybe even by law. But all the official legal documents based in America due to the stock exchange that we are on show that the Qatari bidders didn't even show proof of funds or how they would pay. So this idea that Sir Jim offering a 25% stake made the Glazers act even greedier than they are and say, yeah, we'll brush the Qataris aside and we'll just go for this option. It isn't true. Although the narrative was how he stopped a full takeover by offering a part takeover, which helps the Glazers. In the end, the Glazers said no to 2 bids to buy them outright for one reason or another, one of which was from Sir Jim. So Sir Jim went back in and said, well, why don't we try something else? I believe slowly over the course of the next 4 to 5 years, the Glazers will be bought systematic out of this football club. I believe they'll be gone. I do believe that he'll work a way of getting them out. Is it exactly how I wanted it to be? No. But it's better than having the Glazers running this themselves. It just is. So not recognizing that is crazy to me. And yes, I think a lot of Man United fans are deflecting that, but Sir Jim's going to ensure that the Glazers get huge amounts of money for the value of the club. Yeah, he is. But that's on you as fans. It's on me as a fan. We are the reason the Glazers are going to make billions because we kept on pumping our money into the club. If we would have done what people like myself have been advocating for 5, 6, 7 years, pool your funds, they would have sold the club for a much lower amount of money nearly a decade ago. But the majority of us are not willing to sacrifice our own personal desires. We do what everybody does in 2024 is we want no responsibility for the situation that we find ourselves in, or our clubs are in, or our careers are in, or our families are in. And we want to blame everybody else for our misgivings. I've got a little bit of pudge around my waist right now. It's on me. I'm eating too much and not exercising enough. Nobody wants to take ownership anymore. It's always it's a thyroid, or the gym's been closed, or I didn't realize they lied about how much salt was in the food. No, you're just greedy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like in life, if you're doing bad in your career, 9 times out of 10, it's because you're not working hard enough or you're not good enough. It isn't because the world's out to get you. And Man United fans are the same. The Glazers are not good for us. 110% not good for us. But feeding them has led to this situation. It's no blaming Sir Jim for me for them being here. But I think this is going to be a good turning point for Man United. I do. I think if we're run well with good football decision makers, and the one thing that's always stood out for me, whether it was the Qataris or Sir Jim from day one, is no one's going to part in the end with about £6 billion and do what the Glazers did. Like, you can't. The Glazers bought the club for 0 pennies of their own money. The club paid debt for years. They didn't put a penny of their own money in. So whatever happened, they were walking away making billions of pounds profit. Even if Sir Jim, he said he isn't, but let's just say he's lying and he's in this for the money. The only way he's making a return is to make Man United better. We can't keep dwindling away. The stadium can't stay as it is. The training ground can't stay as it is because it will lose value over time. You know, in another 15 to 20 years, when maybe the Ineos look to sell it, if it's all about making money, if we continue to regress, they're not making a return on their investment, no matter what goes on with TV money in the Premier League. Because you know how many Man United fans won't be around by then, and all the new young fans are not picking Man United if we continue to fall away. So they have to make us good on the pitch. They have to make the football good. They have to make us at least challenge for those major trophies. They have to invest in the stadia, which makes the club far more competitive and sustainable. So I'm really excited about this, and it's what I've been asking for over a decade now. Good quality football people running the club, because I look at Arsenal's turnaround in the last 2 years. Arteta's part of it, but the board is key. I look at City and Pep, a maestro, a brilliant manager, but without you being run the way you are, Pep wouldn't have the foundation to be as brilliant as he has been. And too many Man United fans focus on players and managers, and it's been doing my brain in for the best part of 10 years. It's all about the board. It's all about the ownership, and it's how we're run. Build a solid foundation, and dare I say it, Man United could end up being back, but it's going to take some time.
What time frame do you give him, though, Terry? When are you going to demand that you actually do? Let's say you're starting from now. He comes in. What time frame has he got to realistically feel Man United to be at the top competing?
So, yeah, again, that's a really great question. At the top competing. So one thing we can't control is how good City, how good Liverpool, how good Arsenal are. So if you guys are running impeccably well, you've got a head start on us. We may not, in the next 3 or 4 years, become better than all of you on a consistent basis. That's too, if you set that as a standard, you're probably going to be disappointed. For me, I would say within 2.5 to 3 years from this point, I would expect Man United to be in a position where we're challenging the titles. Maybe not winning them, but at the very least challenging. We don't know who the manager of City will be by then. We don't know where Arsenal will be. We've just got to focus on ourselves. And when I talk about challenging, I don't talk about, I don't mean one good season. I mean a point where we are in and around that title race from that point moving forward. 2.5 to 3 years, I think. However, I would expect to see an uplift in performances, an uplift in the way we play football. Depends on what we do with new managers. If we get a new manager, I would want to see that pretty quickly. This whole idea that it takes 6 months to a year for a manager to implement his style, I believe that's
Waffle.
pretty much nonsense. It is waffle. So the football's got to improve very quickly. Even look at this season as an example. This season's not a write-off. I know that the world gets angry over top 4 trophies. It's not a trophy, but it puts you in the Champions League. And I want to be in the Champions League. One, I want the income from it so we can invest in better players to make our squad better. It does make you slightly more attractive to a particular group of players. And if we improve next year, let's just say we go to another level next year, you want to be in the Champions League because it's a knockout competition. And look, let's not act like we haven't seen teams win it who nobody expected to win it. So I want us to fight now. With 5 points behind 5th, they believe there's about a 75% chance the 5th place team in England makes the Champions League, especially if City or Arsenal do a mad one. You know, I don't want City or Arsenal to win it as a rival, but if they did and we came 5th, you're in it next year. There's talk of a big £300 to £400 million investment in the summer. That's a lot of that is coming from money that Ineos are going to pump in themselves. And yeah, look, football improving straight away. Fight hard for the rest of this season to try and make the best of what has been an awful campaign. And then I would say 2.5 to 3 years to build a squad and build a team that you look at and say that can challenge year in, year out for the next 4, 5, 6 years, and then beyond that.